Good evening to you. I'm Christine Johnson. An Orlando nightclub is still a crime scene after the worst terror attack in the U.S. since September 11th. Right now, crews are removing the bodies one by one. 50 people were killed, 53 others wounded in this shooting. Police say the gunman pledged allegiance to ISIS before the attack. And we're also learning more about him from the FBI and his ex-wife. Florida's governor declared a state of emergency as this investigation continues, and we have team coverage of the attack and also stories of survival. Let's begin with Lou Young. He is live in Orlando outside the nightclub. Lou?
Christine, this time last night, the Pulse nightclub up the block here was a room full of people enjoying the freedom of a Saturday night on the town. Music, dancing, hours from disaster, experiencing a sudden barrage of hatred and death we're still trying to process tonight. The patrons inside the Pulse nightclub first thought the gunshot sounds were part of the show. Then they saw the people fall as the sounds kept coming and the blood was everywhere.
Oh my God, they're all shooting back and forth.
It wasn't until you could start smelling the ammunition that people actually got the hint, and they heard it repeated. That's when everybody dropped to the floor. And it was just complete, utter chaos.
It was one man with a military-style assault weapon. 29-year-old Omar Mateen had an AR-15 and a handgun as backup, and he just kept shooting.
I want to say there was anywhere from 45 to maybe 60 rounds being shot. And as soon as he depleted one of them, he put another one in, and he was just basically just swiping around. No specific purpose, just kind of just shooting anybody and anything.
The New York-born resident from Port St. Lucie, Florida, called 911 from inside the club between barrages.
It has been reported that Mateen made calls to 911 this morning in which he stated his allegiance to the leader of the Islamic State.
More than 100 casualties in the popular gay nightclub, at least 50 dead, most killed in the opening minutes of the attack. Police stormed the place after a 3-hour standoff using a controlled explosion and a vehicle to break through a wall. Mateen was shot dead. 30 survivors were still inside the club. Our memories are seared by the sound of a frantic mother's voice. The horror we all woke up to on a Sunday in June.
But I don't know where my son is. No one can tell me where my son is. If he's been shot, if he's dead, no one knows.
Many were quick with labels for this nightmare, and sadly every one of them stuck. Hate crime, terror attack, lone wolf, assault rifle mass murder. A checklist of our 21st century inventory of horror. Former New Yorkers who moved south here after 9/11 are especially rattled.
It's very heartbreaking to see all this going on here today.
You thought you'd left it behind?
Thought I left it behind. No, it's very heartbreaking. It's very sad.
Live in the 11 o'clock hour, you're looking at the scene. The work continues there, the Pulse nightclub. We hear it so often, so close to home. Who could imagine it happening here, especially something of such horrifying enormity? The work, as we mentioned back there, is to establish the timeline of death and then remove the remaining victims, a process that continues as we speak. We're live in Orlando. Lou Young, CBS 2 News.
All right, Lou, thank you. And as Lou just mentioned, bodies of some patrons killed are still in that nightclub at this hour. Officials are working carefully to identify all 50 victims and then notify their families. Tonight, though, we can share a few names with you. 34-year-old Edward Sotomayor worked for a cruise company, and 23-year-old Stanley Almodovar III was a pharmacy technician who Snapchatted a video of himself before going out to the Pulse Club. Also, Luis Vielma was just 22 years old. The other victims identified include 22-year-old Juan Ramon Guerrero, 37-year-old Kimberly Morris, 20-year-old Luis Omar Asio Capo, and 36-year-old Eric Ivan Ortiz Riviera. Also, 22-year-old Peter Gonzalez Cruz.